If your ink's too slow and your nib won't flow, here's one of the places that you can go. Larry is here to see you through with Mr. Announcer and Cubby too. It's Larry's Fountain Pen Reviews.
Alrighty, folks. This is an unexpected Zoom meetup. One never knows when we'll have Zooms. Isn't that right, Dan?
Yep.
You know me, I'm that cuckoo the place, and so what are we going to talk about? We're just going to hang out and have fun. As you see, we have a major, large list of people here. The big four. Yes.
Yes.
So, anyway, what I really want to talk about, we're going to have our new pen club meeting in the morning. The
Fountain Pendulum.
And be the first time ever, and we're going to see or hear people's feedbacks and see how we're going to get started here, and we're going to just see how it's going to go. You know, I hope.
What time's that going to be? What time's that going to be, Larry?
10 o'clock.
Central.
Okay.
Brand new, and Janice will be here. So hopefully it'll take off. You know, the pendulum is on tonight. And Frank said that he was talking to Stan, and I don't know if he may come on when it's over or what, but you know, that would be interesting to see how they format their club meeting. But I can always talk to a friend of mine later that's in one of those meetings and see what they do. One of them said, now this isn't over the internet, this is at a regular club meeting. They all eat and talk, and then they share what they brought, their pens, and talk about their pens and what the likes and dislikes, basically what we do, and inks and paper, whatever they have. So we might can throw that in, but that's nothing new because we do that. But it's interesting to hear what people like and dislike, like Frank over there.
The Pelican Hub, that's just once a year, is that right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought they have it once a month. They don't?
I think the Pelican Hub is a big thing once a year, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, I heard it's a big thing. I thought it was in Dallas. Didn't that guy David go to one in Dallas, Jake?
I don't remember them calling it that, but it could be.
And sometimes, and all this I'm not even sure, at the Pelican Hub, somebody from Pelican comes and sees them, and I think, and talks to them, you know, of course, about pelicans. So how many have pelicans? I do.
I have one.
How about you, Frank?
Never had a
How about you,
Pelican.
Mr.? Just act like a pelican, you'd be all right.
Okay, yes, it is a yearly.
Yearly.
And tonight is the night when they meet, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I got my Pelican in. Where is it?
Yay. So nobody may show up.
My Pelican.
There it is, baby.
Ooh.
Prime, baby. Yes, I'm talking about.
I think this was like my third pen that I owned. This one right here. I bought this gently used.
Very gently used.
I call it my lab pen.
You own more than 3 pens.
I call it my lab pen. You know why I call it my lab pen?
Why?
Because it says lab on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
I see it. I see it.
See it? That's my lab pen.
Yep.
I paid good dollar for this pen too.
You did?
I did. I paid good money for it. It was a very reasonable price, but it was for
you better pay good money for that. But he has more than 3 pens, Frank.
He does, huh?
Trust
me. This was my third pen. My first pen was an FPR pen, a Himalaya pen.
Ah.
with a flex nib. You remember, Larry? When
Yeah.
I first got a hold of you, I was looking for a flex nib, and that's why you told me to call Kevin.
Yeah.
And then you broke me of flexiness, and this is my first real pen.
That's a gorgeous pen.
And beauty, Visconti.
Yes.
And I still don't know who made the nib for this thing. I guess they didn't make their own nibs then either, did they?
I don't think so.
You can't see it probably.
Isn't that a palladium?
What's that?
Isn't that a palladium?
No. I do have one palladium nib, and that's a Van. It's also a Visconti, but I can't. Homo sapiens.
And what is that? That nib?
This is the Opera.
Ah, the Opera.
I think that's called. Yeah.
Is that a Visconti nib?
It says Visconti, but that's all it says on it. Yeah, it says on here Opera. It's an Opera, Visconti Opera. Yeah. But it feels glass, but it's not a glass.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. This is a medium nib. And do you remember me telling you? I tested this, and I wrote you a letter the other day. Did you get the letter that I wrote with this, Larry? Just would have got it just in the last couple of days. Okay. No. I put
not yet. Hadn't come yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I started the letter when I inked this up, because it's been uninked for a while, because I try to rotate my pens. So I've been thinking about it a lot. And I put that Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho, which is like a greenish kind of pea greenish kind of a stuff, love the ink, but it felt so dry. I thought, oh man, I just didn't like it. I thought, I've not tried my magic ink in it yet. I'm going to do that. So I went, I squirted all the ink out, rinsed it out, filled it up with my magic ink. And lo and behold, it writes like I put oil in it. It's a completely different ink pen. It's the same darn ink, but it's their black ink.
Yeah.
Their black ink, they call it Takasumi. And it just is like, if you've got a dry nib of any kind, or a pen that you wishes a little smoother and you don't want to go having it ground down, right, put some of that Takasumi in it, and then you'll call me and say, you're right, Dan. It really made a huge difference. It's like two different ink pens. It's really good stuff. Anyway, I didn't mean to steal the show. Sorry. How'd that all happen?
You're the guest star tonight.
No, I'm not. I'm done. I did my bit a couple weeks ago.
Well, we're going to just hang around, just throw out stuff like that, because nothing much going to happen, because there's no, what do you want to call it, Jake?
Agenda?
Wasn't a lot of advertising for this.
Yeah, I just put it on, whatever.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't done this in a while, because my health is so bad. And that's what I'm doing tomorrow night. I'm trying to keep a trend going. I guess I'm trying to build up the strength to keep doing this. So I'm going to try it tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day for me. And then I'm not sure about Sunday. Anything on Sunday?
No.
Okay, good. And then I'm not going to do this all the time, back to back, of course. So, anyway.
What's your schedule like, Jake, for Christmas and everything? I mean, Thanksgiving.
For school, we were there today. The kids weren't. We just had a work day, but I'm off all Monday through Friday of next week.
Okay.
And we get 2 weeks off for Christmas.
Okay. That's good.
And I'm singing Christmas carols.
Are you?
Yeah, but
Santa got run over by a reindeer.
Yeah. That's right.
A good one.
I love it.
Grandma got run over.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Oh.
Jake, you're the musician in the house. You should write a reindeer song.
Hadn't thought about that.
You should. You got a couple weeks to work on it.
Yeah.
Reindeer got blown up by a fountain pen. No, reindeer.
Well, you need to write a song for us. The truth about Larry. Yeah, you got to put a reindeer in there somewhere.
Larry
Okay.
writing his Christmas letter to Santa with his fountain pen,
I can give you this little story. You probably remember we've talked about being in a band before.
Yes.
First a few months, we were going through a lot of different music, trying to see which ones we thought would work out. And he asked me about the words of one of the 60s songs. So I printed it out, but right in the middle of it, I added a little extra sentence. So he was there singing la 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 la. Larry is a jerk, la 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 la, and he just stopped with his mouth open.
And how about the one, I'm on the highway to Christmas? No, yeah, you're going. Yeah. Hey, Doc.
Hey,
what
guys.
you doing, buddy?
Hi, Joe.
Thank you. And Doc is to the rescue.
So I'm just curious, what these Pelican hubs are only in person?
That's what I thought. But then I heard it was on the internet because it comes once a year, right, Jake?
Okay, well, this is off of their website. What will be your favorite hub location this year? The map shows all registered hubs for the running year. So apparently it takes place on the same day in different locations.
But it's not on Zoom or nothing like the internet or nothing?
I didn't see anything.
Thing.
Now, I did hear from Frank that he was talking to Stan. Now, I'm not sure if that's a Stan that hangs out with us. And they were at the Pelican Hub. And when they got through with that, I think he said he would try to come over here. So I'm not sure. So
yeah, maybe it's
somebody sent me a link to the. I thought it was you, Doc, but it wasn't. Send me a link, and I can't find it.
Lannis is the only person I know that's really into pelicans big.
Who?
I know a lot of people have
Lannis.
pelicans, but Lannis, yeah.
Lannis, yeah.
She might be an interesting one for you to have as a speaker sometime, Larry. Have her bring her collection and talk about the different kinds. I was amazed at how many different ones she has.
Of pelicans?
Yeah, she's got 30 plus, I think.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, she loves pelicans. Yeah.
Wow.
I love my pelican. This is it right here. My pelican.
So, Doc, what's your favorite pen? Do you have one?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, besides the Mont Blanc 149, I mean, I go through different ones.
Right.
But from a writing standpoint, I always come back to any Japanese extra fine and preferably Sailor extra fine nibs. I've been changing out my collection recently because I have all these pens I'll never use. It's got to be able to do me, correct for the kind of writing style I have. And I don't like broad, medium, or even European fines. I prefer Japanese EFs. And it's just my eye aesthetic and what I'm trying to achieve. It's what I prefer. And so, I've bought a lot of pens in the past that have all different. I still got I think I have a custom Pelican. I have a custom made pen that has a Pelican. What's the big one? The Pelican 800. Yeah, the 1000. The Pelican 1000.
Yeah, 1000.
Yeah, it's a beautiful nib. The problem is it's just too springy for me. And you probably heard me say I prefer stiff nibs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have a lot of Pelicans in my original collection. I used to have the Toledo 7 and 900, or I really, I liked them. But back then I wasn't into my style of handwriting. I really wasn't writing much at all, to be honest with you. I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s. And so right now I don't actually have a Pelican pen in my collection for no reason. And I've been trying to focus on stuff I want to use, and they're beautiful pens. I think they're beautiful nibs, but just not for my particular neurotic penmanship, whatever you want to call it. I just have certain requirements for it. So I think they're wonderful pens. I like the fact you can unscrew a nib and clean the pen out really well. Although, Mike Massiam will tell you it should be retuned after you screw it back in. But that's my standpoint. Still love my Mont Blanc 149, but the EF is acceptable to me. But I would prefer the size smaller, or half a size smaller, whatever the case may be.
Now, when you write letters, do you write them regular cursive, or how do you handle that?
What I do resembles cursive, but when I talk about cursive, I'm talking about Palmer method. the Zehner-Bloser method, the way it was taught back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there's only a handful of people that do stuff like that. Now, Michael Ward is one of them. A guy named David DiGiovanni, who has a free site online. I think it's palmermethod.com. He actually posts the entire Palmer method, and he writes with that style that Michael was talking about. No finger movement.
Yeah.
You know, it's rocking off the forearm. What they used to call muscular movement. Most modern pen people today write more like I do, with very slow, methodical writing. But that's not what cursive is supposed to be, a running hand, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you watch people do that, it looks different than what I do. And what I do, it's more calligraphy than it is writing. So, you know.
Do you have any? Yeah,
ahead.
you have examples to show the difference between that and the other?
Oh, sure. Let me see if I can pull something up here.
Pizza.
What's the
sounds-
difference between Zehner, Blosser, and Palmer?
Not much.
Okay. Did one come before the other? Zehner Blosser came
No,
first, right?
pretty much no. The Bloser school existed before. Zehner-Bloser school existed before, but the actual method of cursive penmanship was really credited to A.N. Palmer.
Okay.
It was a contemporary of Dennis W.E. Dennis's at George G.W. Michael's Pen Art Hall. So that's really where it came from. And what they basically did is what they did over in Europe with the round hand. They took the shades away, and they changed the forms to some degree. See if I could find.
Can you put them on? Or does it need to be co-host?
No, he can share.
He can do it. Okay.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, right there. I think I can share. Let me just call this one guy side up, and I can give you. If you got an Instagram account, you can seek him out. I think he goes by the moniker Perfect Biscuits. His name is David Giovanni. Perfect
Okay.
Biscuits. There it is. I mean, the guy's pretty inspiring when it comes to just. And this will show you what that style really looks like. And it's very different than what you see me post up on screen. So this is his website. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
That's
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty remarkable.
That's good looking. Wow. Look at that.
Good looking. Yeah.
That's really nice. Really nice.
This
That looks like what I learned in school.
That's exactly what it is. What I've done is more of a, excuse the term, bastardized form of it, you know. So that's why I don't want people to think that I'm trying to teach cursive handwriting. This is something that is a lot more free. You can imagine him. I've seen him doing it. I got videos of him doing it. I don't know if I could find one on here. Yeah, here it is. Well, no, he's showing practice stuff there. This might be one. You see the way it's very cursive in nature?
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be done. You know, he's having me using a ballpoint pen there, but honestly, it doesn't matter. The guy knows what he's doing.
Right. That looks great, man. Look at that. That is old school
And this is him using a dip pen.
to me.
Now, if you compare and contrast that to what I do, if I can call something up here real quick. I got so much stuff on my channel, man. So if I go to my playlists and I go to penmanship here, you guys have
If
seen
you're a
me.
college student, keep watching.
It's amazing. I don't make any money on these
Favorite things
videos,
are
but they always have
writing
ads on them.
the correct format for my citations.
So if you watch me with this, come on, where is it?
Variation in the
Okay.
letters that we write, especially lowercase
Let me just
letters,
click it over when we start.
the forms that would basically be thought of.
And this might not have been the best one. You see how slow I am at writing it? I draw the letters. It's not what David was doing. It's not what Michael does. This is drawing. This is calligraphy.
Let's say right,
Mm-hmm.
second letter would be, or rebel with the second, first lowercase letter.
When
the
I'm
second
illustrating here,
letter
sometimes the
would be
first
an E.
lowercase letter, if it's an E, can be done above the X height.
Middle line, and this is the baseline,
So you see here,
started like this.
above
Looks
it.
like a pseudo capital.
See how slow I write?
Yeah.
And starting to the next letter. And then if this is the word real, the A would then come up.
If you're writing a letter to somebody, though, you wouldn't write like that, would you, Joe?
No, but I mean, I've sent my letters to people. It's, I would still write slowly, but I would write in smaller style. Wait, let me,
Yeah.
sorry, let me just take this out.
You'll see this stuff.
I'd write in a much smaller, you know, I think I've read, I forget who it was. Somebody I sent something to, I wrote a letter. I mean, Dan, I think you have a letter of mine, don't you?
I have one that you wrote with my signature, with my name. You
Right.
did my name.
But
Yes.
that was the one with the pen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that, I mean, I'd still write slowly. It's not something I'd want to use for long passages. And what you've seen David doing, that's actually not the real running style. That's the real A.M. Palmer method, but there was a more extended version of running hand that was meant to be written very fast. And I guess there were definitely people around that could do it, but I might be able to bring up an actual shot of running.
Is that what they call business?
Well, what the A.M. Palmer method is business penmanship.
Okay.
Here's let me see. It's me. I've got gigabytes.
It's been so many years for me, but it seems to me like when I remember when they were teaching us cursive in school.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't even think they call it cursive, but whatever it was,
No, it was the Palmer method or Zana Blow's
Yeah.
method. This is an example of the running hand. It's usually more spaced out.
running hand. Okay.
Yeah, and so you notice when it comes off the letter at the baseline and it extends out a ways, then comes up, letters form and extends out again. It's a much more spaced way of writing. So you need more room to do it, but that's the example of running hand.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you could find art in script or just a single letter, then you're onto something. But if you look at guys like the most famous at this hand was a guy named Mills, E.C. Mills. He taught at the Rochester Business College up in Rochester, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Early, that's him there. Let me just get something up here. I'll show you. Oh, it's too small. Sorry. Normally I do this. No, it's still too small. Okay. And the way they would, oh, this is a part of, this is his stuff. Okay. The way they basically, did these examples. This is when you didn't have Photoshop to correct things. You had to do things with whiteout, and the paper will look yellow. But remember, at the time it was written, this paper was pretty white. And so this is an example of Mills script. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's simplicity itself, but it's deceptively difficult to do because what you got to look at is the consistency of letter forms, the consistency of angles, the consistency of the size and width of the letters that give you the spacing. People always ask me, how do you get spacing? Even with copper plate style script, it's got to do with the uniformity of the letters, especially when it comes to the ovals that define them. And,
I'm trying to figure out what I do when I write. And Tony sent me back something one time and said that he had a name for what I wrote. He said, "Oh, that reminds me of the old such and such style." And because my descenders are quite long compared to a lot, what would that be? I mean,
well, there was a style that sort of competed with the Spencerian style, and the ascenders and descenders were very, very long. And I believe that was the Dantonian method that sort of came out about the same time as Spencerian did. I don't know if that's an example of that. And were you using shading in your letters or no?
No.
Okay, then probably not.
I don't know if I can show you anything I've written or not. I've got some stuff I've written lately for myself, not a good example, I guess, but so it's kind of fast, but like, can you see that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's something, it's a stylized form of business penmanship. That's all. You've had
This here?
there. Yeah, you had a little flair there. So I would consider that to be, cursive.
Okay.
People would call business penmanship.
A lot of my descenders are pretty long,
Yeah, but that's just showing some flair and style. That's all. What I think folks tend to do, to be honest with you, is they tend to do too much in the way of swirls. You're not doing this, but there's something that we like to call spaghetti.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could even spell it correctly.
With a few meatballs thrown in.
Well, yeah, and what you see here is a good example of what I call the noodle stuff. You know, there are a lot of people that before they learn the proper letter forms, they want to flourish. And so if you look at, you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it has a certain eye appeal to it, but it's just overdone. And so, you know, learning to write proper lowercase letters is probably the most important thing. The uppercase and the swirls are impressive to look at, but as someone once told me, we live and die by our lowercase letters because that's the majority of what we write. You know, and so, oh, there's a whole bunch of different styles out there. You know, the Platt Roger Spencer style. What I think the biggest misconception is that folks think that in order to write copperplate, you have to use an oblique pen holder. It does help, and I prefer to use it for that style. But a straight Spencerian the same way. Everybody who does Spencerian is right-handed, uses the oblique pen holder. But that's not the way Platt Roger Spencer taught it or developed it. He developed it with a feather pen, a feather quill pen. You know,
there's a guy that I've seen has got some YouTubes. He's got some pretty interesting stuff. It looks like he's pretty good at what he does. I've not spent much time with him, but he calls himself PA Scribe.
Oh, Paul Antonio.
You know who that is?
Oh, I know Paul. Paul's from London. He writes with a straight pen holder, even when he does his copper plate script.
Yeah, that's what made me think of that when you said that.
Yeah, he's yeah, I met Paul at an IAPA convention. I was quite pleased to meet him. I admire anybody who's trying to do this stuff and promote it. He teaches it and has his own method of teaching it. And yeah, it's important that somebody learning, like Larry, you mentioned to me earlier about easy way to get into calligraphy. Well, even though technically I am a calligrapher, I do one style of script, the engrosser script, what people call copper plate. The reason why I don't like calling myself a calligrapher is not anything wrong with it. I just think a calligrapher or an artist like that, you know, has to do many styles and do them, you know, for people in production, produce art. All I really do is teach it. And so it'd be like me calling myself, you know, an artist, a painter, because I painted 2 paintings in my life, you know, whereas the real dedicated, you know, devotee would have a body of work. And, you know, so I think I mean, I have a body of work when it comes to engrosser script. And what's now I'm doing what I call calligraphic penmanship, but that's my own take on it. And I don't want to, like Dan, I will eventually produce, I have produced certain exemplars. But again, it's not like, you know, I basically have taken the traditional Palmer method forms or the Dana Bloser forms and it basically mutated, that might be a good word, into some, like there's certain forms I don't like. I
still have never seen a P like your P. Your capital P.
Right, but or a B. I make the B the same way with the R.
Yeah.
That came from ornamental penmanship, and there are people who did that with ornamental. I don't think I can find the example of it now, but
and the overlapping A, I'm still looking for that.
Well, I'll tell you where that came from. That came from a Charles Norder. He was doing engrosser script, the stuff I'm known for. And he basically did a lowercase a, different than the way I did it, but I just stylized it. So let me just bring it up here and I can show you what I mean. He did a Christmas card. This is it here. It's not the biggest thing, but it'll do. And this guy was remarkable at this kind of script. I knew somebody who actually knew him.
Wow.
So if you take a look, right, you take a look at where you see the A up here for Christmas and the G, he hooked that in.
Yeah.
All I did was extend it and bring it over. What did I do?
Okay.
I think I did Lannis like that. It just hit me. The inspiration hit me to try modify. Rarely have I come up with my own ideas on something. I think it's Lannis I did it on. Yeah, if you take, matter of fact, I just inserted the pelican nib for her because I didn't realize she was such a, you know, big pelican person. Can you, wait, hold on, sorry. Let me just switch it.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Which can you see here?
Christmas Eve.
I'm seeing the Christmas card.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Let me switch out of that.
That sure is pretty. I love it.
Yo, that was written a long time ago. This is Lannis's I did for her. Can you see it? So what Dan's talking about is the A in Lannis.
Yeah.
And so that was, if you look at the other one, just a modification of that. That's all.
Yours goes over the top and the other one goes inside.
Exactly. Well, remember the one specimen I showed in the video that the first letter can sometimes be a little larger So I
Yeah.
did that with the dramatization of the what I call a hook. And I even come up with capital letters to be used with. Have you ever seen my needle stitch script exemplars?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So if you look at this. This is a technique that was done and I was not the one who invented this, but let me just bring it up. So let me go back to the actual. Sorry, normally when I present this stuff, I put it into a PowerPoint, so I have to keep on going back and forth with this. But this is needle stitch script.
Oh,
You see
wow.
that?
You did show us that once.
Yes, and this is something that the first time I seen it was from a penman from the 30s and 40s, Francis B. Courtney. It was probably done before him, but we don't know. It was Michael Sull who coined the words needle stitch script because it has that look to it, like it was stitched into the paper. And so what I did is I took the normal J and extended it and then made a fishhook capital go along with that. It fits a little bit better into the scheme, I think. This has almost a hypnotic effect. It's a very easy thing to do once you know how to do basic script. If you notice the lowercase d's, very much like Norder's A, with a little curly Q in here. So that's, and the thing is, you just have to depress the pen, pick it up midway, and then depress it again and pick it up again. That's all we do. But if you do it correctly, it gives this really wonderful effect. And, yeah, and if you look carefully, sometimes the eye doesn't pick it up, but there's no connector between this shade and the dot on the S. It's not there, but it tricks the eye into thinking it's there. This we got from Louis Mataraz.
So Joe, no dumb question here. What is this supposed to be? Right
What's
there,
that?
right where my arrow's at.
No, I can't see your arrow. Where?
Okay. So what is that, a D going up?
Here?
You see it, Jake?
Okay, yeah, I was trying to figure out J-U-D-D
something.
Judson.
Judson was
S-U-O-S-O-N. Yeah, and again, remember, people aren't used to reading this kind of stuff. A while back, I posted it the other day, Louis Mataraz. The Mataraz lowercase s is where I got that from. Probably the most famous of the ornamental penmen.
Now, Doc, when growing up, you went to elementary school. You went to Catholic school, right?
Early on. I was thrown out in the
now, when you were in the 1st through 4th grade, did they start teaching you how to write?
Well, we had penmanship classes, and believe it or not, I didn't do well in those. I got punished a lot for my penmanship. If you if you see the way I write, it's pretty unreadable. I focus to do this. That's not my normal script. There are people that could, even the best of the best, in their everyday handwriting, it didn't look like that stuff. It looked, I'll show you, Mataraz. Where's Mataraz's S? I mean, we talk about this stuff for hours at IAMPITH. And Mataraz is considered to be the best of the best. Here it is. Considered to be the best of the best at this hand. Where is it? Mataraz. Yes, got so much stuff opened here. So this is what I was talking about. See, there's no actual hairline connecting the lower part of the S.
Yeah.
That dot looks like a drop of rain on a wire that's about to fall.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do than you would think. But that is, and I'll show you one of Mataraz's everyday hand. You know, when he was writing quickly, we have an order from him of putting in for different pen holders. And let me see if I can get this up here.
This is my interest. Deep.
Even dentists, these are some of the literally the best of the best when it comes to. Let me see, was it a note? I forget how I named it. The problem with having like a terabyte of images is trying to find what you want because you name things all different. Let me see, order, letter. And this is a guy who literally, was as close to perfect as you can get when it comes to some of this stuff. Like I'll show you one of his letters from it's gonna be hard to read. But if you look at this, you see that?
Whoa.
I wouldn't have believed the human hand could do that until I actually held this in my hand. And this is dated in 1903.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he would pass away about, I don't know, 7 years after that. But if you look at some of the stuff he did, there was an order he put in. I just can't remember. I can't find it now.
What was his name again?
Louis Mataraz.
Okay.
Yeah, he was considered to be literally the best of the best. And now that's a debatable thing, of course.
Yeah.
But he also did engrosser script like this, and you'll see this now. And he had a very different approach to this. You see that?
Yeah.
That was penned by him. And if
Okay.
you notice the shadowing here, it's because the ink they used was either one of two types, stick ink or iron gall ink. And the iron gall ink would start to turn, it would start to rust over time. And in the presence of moisture, it can create free radicals that will literally cleave the paper. Like some of the specimens, the shades are missing. They're actually gone. You can see right through the paper. Because,
Whoa.
yeah, because this is acid-containing wood pulp paper. So acid plus moisture leads to free radical generation with iron. Iron is the catalyst for it. Some of this stuff closed.
So what style is that? Spencerian?
The one I just showed you,
Yeah.
That's engrosser script, but his style of engrosser script.
Oh.
His style of engrosser script. Let me just close some of this. Not too much open here. But I'm trying to find the regular, everyday correspondence from him. And he would do some wild stuff too. And by the way, Iampit owns a number of his pen holders. And so if you look at his pen holders, nothing fancy about them.
Wow.
Today we have these beautifully ornate pen holders. Back then it was a job. He would basically take the top of the pen holder and carve it flat and rest his finger right on top of it, his index finger right on top of that. Yeah, we got some amazing specimens in the group. And he also would write very fancy style. He did a little bit of bird flourishing, but that really wasn't his forte. It was in the realm of ornamental penmanship specifically. And he would do things that you could pretty much pick up right away. It's him. But I'm trying to see if because the everyday letter is important to see, because folks just don't realize, they think you write like this every day, and this takes focus, and if he was actually the best of it, I'm trying to think if I can, I even got early specimens of some of these guys, and it's amazing how different they look compared to what they became.
So, Doc, let me interrupt for a minute.
Go ahead,
When did you start actually hands-on doing this?
Well, I began sort of as a pastime thing, just tried my hand at it back in probably '93. And so it wasn't until '99 that I went to the Iampit convention. That's when I found out about it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really take it seriously. It was just my own style of writing, I call it, my own way of writing, and just simply used an oblique pen holder with the flexible nib, and made my own. I think I showed you guys some of my early work, and so it wasn't until the Iampit convention that I all of a sudden caught fire with it, and I was surrounded by people that wanted to be very precise with this, and I'm a precise by nature kind of guy, and that's, I would say, I really started it in August 1999. That's when I really became serious about it. And whatever skill I developed in the next 2 years, 3 years. It took me that long to get with focused practice and the right people looking at my work, and so it took a while. It doesn't happen quickly. You can go from being beginner to intermediate rather quickly. I mean, that happened to me. Let me just see before and after. Happened relatively quickly to me. But the problem is when you want to go from intermediate to advanced, or God forbid, advanced to master it, level at that, which is a term I don't really use much. That becomes a very, very different thing. And so I don't know if you could see this. You might have seen this image before, but this represents a spread of about 2.5 years. Can you see that?
Yep.
And hopefully you can see the difference. I've had people say, "Oh, the top one looks pretty," but it's not. I mean,
hold there for a minute. I just want to look at it. Hold there.
Yeah. It's the best I could do at the time. And
That's you?
That's me. Yeah, the top one is me, and
Wow.
the bottom is me. Yeah.
Love it.
I post that for people to see specifically. Actually, what I could do is this. I posted a PDF, and some of you may have downloaded it. Let me see if I can get this up here.
Boy, did your capital B change?
Well, that's the traditional engrosser script capital B. My capital B for now was based on ornamental penmanship, and I don't think I'd be able to find that too quickly for you, to be honest with you. But if you take a look at this, some of these PDFs I make have actually been translated into Spanish and Chinese, and but this is a PDF that where is it here? Okay, sorry. Stop share, go back to share. If I take this PDF now, this is called before and after. Okay, you can see the PDF here, the image.
Yeah.
Well, let me go into this a little bit. So I did this to let people know that you're not born writing this way, you have to learn it. So this is the piece from 1999 I showed you before. I think for most people who are novices, that would be they'd be happy with that. But just after going there and really studying this with the passion, then just literally from August to November, you could hopefully you see a difference. You see the refinement of the style.
Yeah.
That's a few months, and then finally 3 years after the 99 early specimen resulted in this. And this was in 2003, and that was probably the best I could do ever. And then for the masters here, this is Henry P. Berensmeyer, one of the masters of ornamental penmanship and flourishing. This was his early swan.
Age 17.
At 17, just look at it. Then look at what he did. Now, this is a regular bird flourish, which most people wouldn't be bad in 1885. But then look at what he went to. That's his height of his career.
Wow.
All right, so you compare it to the one at the bottom. And same thing with his birds. Look at the difference. His birds look like they could fly off the paper.
Yeah.
And then Lupfer, this is one. Go ahead, Larry. I'm sorry.
Beautiful.
Earl Lupfer was the principal at Disneyland College. He was graduated from Disneyland College, but he told a remarkable story, and I've told this many times online. He related to founder of IAMPIT, Eileen Richardson. Both her and her husband were founders of IAMPIT. They also went to Disneyland College, I think over the summertime. But Lupfer, who was also a member of IAMPIT, one of the founding members of it, related a story. When he first went to Disneyland College, the great C.P. Zahner was the principal. And he pulled Lupfer into his office and said, "Look, you kid, I appreciate your effort, but you don't have it." Oh, yeah. He recommended he got a different job and looked for something else. And Lupfer said it really lit a fire under him. He became one of the best all-around penmen that we've ever known. So this was one of his early pieces of script. This was done in 1907. Okay, and if you look at this with a real discerning eye, hopefully you can see that that's pretty. I mean, some people might be able to do that kind of script today, but it's very irregular. Slant angles aren't there. The letter forms have a lot to be desired. Then you compare that to Lupfer. This is in 1908. So literally from here to here, 1 year.
Wow.
Because he was taught how to do this. We have to learn it on our own. And then finally, you look at him when the zenith of his career. It's hard to explain how beautiful. I used to have this piece. I gave it to somebody. This is called The River of Dreams. It combines at the top the engrosser script, what people would call, unfortunately, copper plate. Then it combines it with a form of Spencerian, but really ornamental penmanship. And you can see just a beautiful flow to this. This really is remarkable work. And this was Lupfer at the very top of his game here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it just is. And this is a combination of engrosser script, lowercase down here, with ornamental penmanship up here. And this is the most amazing example, the handless penman.
Look at that guy.
Yeah, he had nothing below the elbow. You see, he holds a pen like that. And he was able to produce, he used to set up on the street and charge money for his cards. That's his signature.
Wow. How?
Yeah, exactly. And this is some other of his work. So when I hear people tell me they can't do it, I'm like, take a look at AC Ryan, the handler.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It is. No, for real, it is. It's just, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, because we have people that think you have to be
Now,
national.
now, real quick, now you got me going here. So it's your fault, Doc. So, this guy that had no hands, what year did he start doing it, and how long did it achieve him to progress?
Don't know. I don't know that much detail. Unfortunately, some of these people have no record of what they did, how they did it, when they, you know, just what got me started in the historical aspect of this was the story of a gentleman named Bugby. All we knew was his name was Bugby. He was supposed to be the most impressive penman in the early 1800s in the New Hampshire area, but there's no record of his. There's nothing left of his to talk about. We barely know anything about the guy, and I really didn't want to see it happen to anybody else. So I started, you know, trying to hunt down these historical figures, and Michael Stoll actually started this long before I did, but you know, we're both historians in that regard, and you know, Michael takes a specific, you know, interest in you know, penmanship, real cursive penmanship, but also in Spencerian. As most of you know, Michael recovered Spencerian from almost the dead. And so no, I don't know much. I can't tell you much about the handless penman because I know it's. I wish, I wish I could. There's a lot of female penmen out there remarkable. I've got stories on some of them, but you know, not by any means. What because it was mainly a patristic thing. I'll show you something else. That's two other images. So this is a better shot of J.C. Ryan. Unfortunately, no date on this either. But if you take a look at, sorry. So this is a better image of J.C. Ryan.
Okay. Can you enlarge him a little bit for a minute?
Sure.
Look at that. Look at that, Jake.
Yeah.
God, how? When I look at his no hands, bless his heart.
That's basically, that's his elbows there, basically. Upper, yeah, he's able to produce pretty impressive script. I mean,
Very impressive script.
Absolutely. And then he's not the only one. Predating him is a guy. Back in the days of English roundhand, they used to give the sub-specimens to a master engraver. And the master engraver would then put them onto a copper plate for printing with the intaglio printing method. They would engrave it onto the copper plate. And what they would also do is if there was, let's say, an error that was made by the penman, they would correct it in the engraving. You would never know it. So you never were really looking at the actual pen written form. But there was, believe it or not, a master engraver, probably in the 1700s, was also handless.
Look at that.
Now, I think it says this was, it's hard to read this stuff because the way they move things in, but I think this is April 29, 1724. And he was considered to be a master engraver. But he also had not only no lower arms, he had no limbs below his waist.
No, right.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. No arms, no legs, and still was a master. How?
Yeah. So I think this was actually a piece that was engraved by him. You're looking at.
You can't even write. Look at this guy.
Well, you know, again, I think some people have limitations that they imagine they have, and that their psyche makes it happen. You know, all of a sudden they can't do this, or, you know, yeah, there are people, again, like the Jake Weidmans of the world, who have this amazing ability across many different disciplines. I mean, I have some artistic ability, but nothing like that. And, you know, my ability to, even some of the letter forms I do, you know, it takes a while for me to really get them down, and I'll still make mistakes, you know, but the only reason most people don't see the mistakes is they don't have the level of eye attention to detail and knowledge that I have. You know, there was a time where all I could see was mistakes, and you got to be careful, because if you're trying to get better at something, you can really outwit yourself and not want to write anymore. If all you, and I used to talk about that, but I really don't much anymore, because at the time I was posting copper plate stuff, you know, people would look at, oh, it's perfect, and trust me, it was never perfect. But if you just sit there describing work that somebody else can't do, it's almost like you're fishing for compliments now. You're being falsely immodest. And so I just got to a point where I just shut up about it, you know, and none of us, I mean, you asked John DeCalibus, Michael Ward, the better you get, the more your eye sees, and sometimes the harder it is to get beyond that. And so I think that's really one of the real key things about anything you do, you know, but that requires discipline and precision. And then, you know, the realization for someone like me that there ain't no such thing as perfect, you know, it was a tough pill to swallow. And, you know, I might have written, I always says I might have written one word in my entire time doing this that I thought was pretty close to what I was aiming for. And it was actually a study of, I'll just close some of these down. It was a study of connectors, asking the question is, can something be too symmetrical? And I'm sure you guys have seen this before. But this was the specimen Sunny. Of all the things I've ever written in my time at this, it's the only thing I felt I couldn't improve upon.
Okay. Now you did this?
Yeah. And so
I don't see anything wrong with it myself.
well, no, I'm not saying it's perfect, but this is using the Mataraz S. You can see it here, and I couldn't even do the dot as well as he could. But the thing is, it was so symmetrical, it's hard to read. If you look carefully, the connectors are not how you would normally connect these letters. I basically compressed everything to make the shades very, very uniform, and it's almost unreadable. If you've ever seen the old church manuscripts written by hand, the Gothic, some of those things had no spaces or punctuation. It's hard to read.
Again, excuse me, Doc, again, excuse my ignorance, but I can't read it. I'm sorry.
Right, but the word is Sunny, S-U-N-N-Y.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked the question, can something be too symmetrical? And the response I was given by my old mentor was Bill Lilly, was that no, you can't have enough you can't have too much symmetry. I think this style, this shows that you can. And
So when did you do this one, Doc?
Oh, probably about 20, I don't know, about 2012, 2013. I don't know. It's the best my hand can do. But, you know, again, the vast majority of the stuff I wrote, you know, I could pick apart. And I think that's what leads to wanting to go further with your work. And, but the danger is, you know, not being realistic and only seeing, you know, errors. And that becomes damaging to your long-term success.
Do you ever get, no, sorry, do they ever have any calligraphy or cursive, any kind of conventions?
Or what?
Conventions. They put all this kind of writing together.
IAMPIT once a year is the only place you can go to really for pointed pen work. So it focuses main on other things too, but a lot of pointed pen. The best pointed pen people in the world are at IAMPIT. And, you know, John go there, Michael goes there. I used to go there. But, you know, I just got other things I have to do with my time now. But it's, you know, it's the organization that has a tremendous archive of original artwork from the 1800s, early 1900s, and some even before that. But, you know, it's a priceless archive. We actually keep it, I think, in a salt mine in Utah where you can actually dry, cool space. And Neil McCaffrey, the guy who makes the ink, he makes McCaffrey's Penman's ink. Neil actually lugs his stuff all over the country, the IAMPIT conventions. And the last one was here in Atlanta. I was planning on going, but that didn't work out. And so, yes, there are just general calligraphy conventions all over the country, all over the world. And so, you know, this last week I gave a talk to the calligraphy something in Bombay, the Bombay calligraphy in India. So I gave them a talk on history and did a Q&A with them on tools and techniques. People in China, I think I mentioned to you guys last time I was on, I spoke to people in mainland China, which I couldn't believe you could even do, you know. And so we use Zoom. There were about 40 members on from the United States and the Western countries that were listening in, but almost 450 people in China. China has its own Zoom program that they can monitor. So if you're going to start, you know, doing anti-Chinese government talks or, you know, pro-democracy down with, you know, the whatever they call it, they'd probably cut the thing off. So I was able, I think I took about 2.5, 3 hours to talk to them because I had to talk and then stop. It would translate into Chinese, ask a question in English, talk about it, you know. So, And somebody was on the call, actually, that put the thing together, was the one who translated a lot of my work into Chinese. And so, you know, you guys know I gave that stuff away. I don't charge for it. And so it has circulated all around the world. And, you know, which is good. I mean, yes, it's a nice ego boost, but the important thing is transmitting this stuff to other people to learn. And there are some amazing, amazing people in other countries at the copperplate or the engrosser script stuff. And
I met once with India. It's been a long time ago. I don't know if we can find it now on YouTube. They were recording it, not me, but I was invited and I got to it. There was about, I don't know, 50, 60 people all over the place. We really had a hard language barrier.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
could understand, some couldn't. So I didn't know what was really going on. Pins.
yeah. No, there's a guy in mainland China, Richie Wei, that, you know, for the engrosser script, you know, however good I was, he's better. And, you know, they've achieved some remarkable stuff out there. They really have. And I seen when they first showed me his work at IAMPA, because he actually came in for an IAMPA convention. I thought they were handing me a work of the past masters, except the paper was too new. And, you know, guys like David Grimes, who you may or may not know, is, you know, again, one of the best at that hand. I don't do that stuff anymore because my hands have problems. I have problems with diabetic neuropathy.
Yeah.
My feet. And so my hands, if they're not hurting me, they're numb. So the monoline stuff is much easier for me to do because I'm accepting of wiggles in my hairline and things not being totally right. Whereas with the engrosser script, it would drive me crazy. And so if I can't do it at a certain level of proficiency, I'm not going to do it. And so I mainly do that because people ask me, well, what do you mean if your hands hurt you can't do it? Why would you do that penmanship stuff? Because it's not the same thing. Regular cursive penmanship is X and Y axis, left and right, up and down, sideways. That kind of stuff, copper plate, is up and down, but you have to press into the paper to get the shade. So it's a three-dimensional type of writing. And that's really challenging to do, especially the way someone like Michael Ward does it, where he's got movement, flow, and has to, you know, press down, let up with a rhythm. That's really, really impressive technique. And the old masters who used to be able to do that, as they got older, the first thing they would lose was the ornamental penmanship ability. The hands is, but yet the engrosser script that I was doing that I'm known for, Willis Baird did a beautiful invitation for IAMPA, and we almost about 80 years old. You know, but you know, they wouldn't even attempt to do the ornamental penmanship anymore. There's a certain, you know, limit to it when it comes to psychomotor skills. So.
Well, that pretty much tells it like it is. So, back to the cursive. I know I'm stuck on cursive writing. What would you recommend?
For what?
Learn how to write neater. Mine's like spaghetti.
I think the easiest book to learn from for a modern person would be Michael Sull's American Cursive Penmanship or Handwriting. He's got these instructional books that are made for homeschooling with kids. It doesn't teach the kind of technique that Michael Ward had or that the Palmer method requires, but it's, you know, writing cursive with finger movement. I think it's the easiest thing to approach. If you wanted to do what Michael Ward does, not that you couldn't do it, Larry, but it would take such incredible dedication. And, you know, yeah, it's just, I mean, just learn letter forms. Like Dan, you were asking me about, you know, the forms I have. It's hard doing it. You know, take one of my forms and put it on a light box and trace over it. You know?
Yeah.
There's things you have to look at when you seem to like that capital capital B. When you go backwards on that B and you've got that point at the end, sometimes it's a loop. When you emerge from it, you got to emerge high quickly. If you don't, it'll look lopsided. And so the things you pick up, the more you do it.
Yeah.
I will produce, you know, but again, it's important for me to make sure people don't think I'm trying to teach cursive. That's calligraphic penmanship is what I do. I'm sure there are people that could do it better than I can, but you know, I wanted to inspire people to pick the pen up, like, you know, like you have a desire, Larry has a desire. That's the whole purpose of this, and we're fountain pen, you know, fanatics. And as you've heard me say before, if we don't do something about handwriting, it goes away. Why on earth are we going to need pens in the future? You know, it's just, you know, monuments to what used to be. You know, you got to promote writing, and luckily Mike does. You know, I try and do it, even though I tell people it's not true handwriting, but it looks like something, or maybe not that the child would do, but it has the lines on. You know, you see these old papers, you know, lines on it, and I try to inspire people to want to at least put pen to paper. I don't care if you can do it like I can or like Michael Ward can do it. You know, there's not many people out there that could do that kind of stuff like he does. But maybe we have inspired people to do it. You know,
Yeah,
all over the world, which is a cool thing.
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
you know, pens are made to write with, not to just look at.
Yeah, look, I have no problem if somebody wants to buy a $15,000 pen and just look at it. That's fine. But you've got to have the ability to, you know, I can write with the inexpensive pen as long as it writes well. You know, I happen to like gold just because it's an ego thing with me. I want to spend money on gold nibs, but you know, everything you see me do with the shaded script, that was all done with steel pens, dip pens, steel dip pens. There was no gold dip pens that you'd use for calligraphy. They had gold nibs way back in the day for regular writing, but not for the type of calligraphy I used to do with the shaded stuff. You know, of the best of the modern pens for doing that is the Mont Blanc 149 calligraphy pen or the 146. That's actually a really nice nib, but I don't like doing shaded script with that. I just never did. You know, I think I posted a video on that, how to do it, how to align the paper. But you know, use your pens. That's my whole thing. Use your pens. Play with ink. We have beautiful inks out there. You know, and just write somebody a letter. Which is why I got into this to begin with. The ironic thing was I really didn't write many letters because I got diverted with the trying to optimize forms. I don't like to say perfect forms, but optimize forms. And so I found a lot more joy rather than like writing a letter, just trying to practice letter forms, which for some people would be a tedious task, not for me. So just to be able to go from good to slightly better to slightly better, and sometimes back to ugly again. It was a give and take, you know, and your focus. But probably more importantly than developing your hand is developing your eye and your sensibility about what is right, because there's a lot of pretty writing out there, but not all of it's worth copying. If you start, I always said this, you start off with really great exemplars to work from, and you don't make it all the way, you'll be really good. If you start off with mediocre exemplars because you don't know any better and you don't make it all the way, excuse the French, you suck at that point. You know what I mean? If you shoot for the best there is, you don't make it, you're still pretty darn good. If you start with stuff that's down here, you don't make it, you're even lower down. You know, and a lot of novices don't know what good exemplars are. That's why we try and post them with IAMPIT or what I post online. You know, give you something to shoot for.
Yeah, good point.
Does anybody want to ask Doc anything before we go?
Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to dominate the conversation.
No. You did extremely well, just what you need to do.
I always learn something from you, Doc.
Yep. And I was curious because I knew you would know it, Doc. So yeah, that's why I'm answering the questions. Yep.
Take a look at the palmermethod.com website.
Okay. Remember, palmermethod.com.
Yeah, I'll post a link. Palmer Method.
For anybody that is interested, that's watching this video, that wants to learn the method, Doc would send them to where? Palmer.
Yeah, I'm gonna link the thing to give you guys. I'm gonna put
palmermethod.com, I believe.
And Palmer, yes. So in the chat section, I'm gonna post a direct link, and I'll actually open up the website and show you. So it's now in. Hopefully, you can all see that in the Palmer. This is palmermethod.com. Yeah. Click on that. If you take a look at the website now, so this is David DiGiovanni's actual website, okay? But you notice the right border, it talks about lessons. These are direct Palmer Method lessons. So if you go, let's say lesson 5, this is the actual exercise to develop it. Lesson 6, and you see it.
Yep.
Now again, if you don't want to write, if you don't have the time or the ability to develop the skill, look at the letter forms. You know, you can write them slowly if you want, but that was never the point of this. And so, you know, these are all.
Yes.
And so, you know.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think and how they develop things. And if you watch David Wright, again, you're talking about somebody who does this really, really well. And so I don't know what he's a shop for, but there's ink. I guess he puts links to things that would be useful for people. But again, you don't have to worry about special dip pens and stuff. Just use your fountain pens. You know, here he's talking about Lamy Safari Extra Fine. So you click that.
Pen, yeah, it shows, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, and you don't have to spend a ton of money. You know, for some of us maniacs, when it comes to fountain pens, of course, some people are okay with the $15 pen. Others would rather spend $1,500 on a pen. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you like, as long as you're happy using it. So, but you get a chance, check that site out. It's the easiest method to learn the forms on, but the actual technique, the muscular movement for this is something he talks about. And you can see him write on his. Let me see. I want to give you the direct link. Does everybody here have Instagram?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is David's direct link on Instagram where it shows you a specimen. So if you take a look at this, I will post that link in the chat as well. That's to his Perfect Biscuit site. And so you can then, you know, look at all the forms. He's got some of the videos he's got, how he holds the pen and what it's supposed to look like when it's done correctly. So that'll give you guys, I mean, just for fountain pen people, you don't need dip ink wells. You don't need, you know, dip pens, expensive dip pens or oblique pen holders. You take your fountain pen, even if you want to use a broad nib. The thing about the nibs is that, you know, if you don't write big enough with a broad pen and you go to make a lowercase e loop, you'll close off the loop. And so typically that kind of size nib requires a much larger letter form. Not that you'd have to do that, but I hate it when loops close off. It just bothers me to no end. And you can reach out to David. He's a nice guy. He can give you some advice on maybe, you know, what's going on. This is the kind of stuff you need to see in person. Videos can help, even with the stuff I taught. You know, it can help, but there's no substitute for being there, you know, just none.
I need to check for that.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
All right, folks. Well, we will see you if you're there in the morning. If not, maybe tomorrow night. If not, till next time. Okay.
What's tomorrow night, Larry?
Just a Zoom. You know, I like to pick up what you're doing now. I don't know if you're bored with it, but I'm not. But
well, no, I'm never bored about penmanship. I still have more enthusiasm I had when it first started. It's just that, you know, what I do now is a different level of precision than what I normally would do with the engrosser script letters. But you know, again, it's pretty. It looks pretty. It's got some rules to it, and it mainly is slant angles, size of letters, and spacing, and everything I've done with ovals is something that, you know, it just keeps coming back up to me. And I try to show folks how to evaluate their work, and sometimes, you know, sometimes they take the advice, sometimes they don't. But you know, I did an image for somebody. I'll just really quickly show you this. I know we ended, but a guy from India wrote out some words, and I wanted to show him how I would evaluate that. And so I did this for him. This is done in PowerPoint. Okay, so his original script is here in the center, the reddish stuff. And so this is Earl Lupfer's word dotted, how I looked at, you know, I told him all these different letters. If you look at the lower third of the letter, you can't tell what the letter, they all look identical. Because of the way he formed the letters on these ovals, imaginary ovals, they're all uniform and the same size and the same slant. So what I did is show him, I'll just bring this up now here. If I can just expand this. What I did is show him, take his original, which is up here, okay? I broke it out to the lower third of the letters, and you can see that they're not all uniform. Like this would not be uniform, but this would be uniform, should be, and it's not. And I showed him why, because the imaginary ovals that form each one of these letters, you come down here, they're different sizes, and they're on different slant angles. You understand? And that's the way I used to evaluate my script. You know, and that was the only way I could sort of make somebody understand how to do this. And I never worried about it while I was writing. I would go back and work on the specimen and critically look at it. to help me go from point A to point B with this. And I realized, okay, maybe I'm not making my stuff consistently slanted, or maybe I'm not keeping those imaginary ovals the same size. I don't think about that while I'm doing it, but in practice, I think about it. And so the place to do this, you don't, if you go into competition, you don't practice on the competition line. You go there ready to shoot, or whatever it's going to be. You don't go there trying to practice and get better. You got to bring it with you. And the same thing here. If you analyze what you do critically, if your goal is to get better, progressively better, that's what it takes to get better.
You have to practice every day?
I did back when I was learning this stuff after 99. I think I would dedicate probably around 30 minutes to an hour. I had an archery coach when I was a competitive archer who was an Olympic level archer. And he told me the best advice I ever got when it came to practice is, Joey, he says, 30 minutes of correct practice will beat 3 hours of bad practice any day. I really took that to heart. And I've said this before on interviews, so if I sat down with a purpose. The purpose was not to just write pretty, but to try and improve what I've done and stuff I was having trouble with. And it worked well for me, but there's nothing wrong with sitting down and trying to write a pretty letter. But if you want to progress, there's a way to do it. Somebody wants to be a virtuoso on a violin or a guitar. You approach the instrument different than a person who does it for fun. You have to have a different approach, different dedication. So I think I'll shut up now because I'm making myself tired.
Okay, guys, we're going to split.
All right.
Doc, thank you for coming. Thanks, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you again, Doc. If you want to continue this tomorrow night at Zoom, let me know.
All right, we'll do.
And I'm going to bring some stuff I have to show you that I've been looking at and practicing. And I know it goes to grade school, but you got to start somewhere.
Hey, what times do you think tomorrow? 8 o'clock CST?
Tomorrow night is 8 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
8 p.m. Okay, good.
And then tomorrow morning, if you care to, not doing nothing, is what, 10?
Yeah, I'm going out to dinner with some folks tomorrow at 6 o'clock or 6:30, but I should be home for some of it.
Okay.
It was fun, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys. Okay, man. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
See you
Got it.
later. Bye-bye. Been fun.
Bye-bye.
Peace and love.